Thank you, Wendy. And again, this morning or this afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in, we want to go through kind of an update on what's happening with internet troll farms. We presented this back in May of last year, not quite a year ago. And what we wanted to look at was, have things changed after the U.S. midterm elections? What brought focus and scrutiny on international troll farms was really the 2015 primaries leading up to the presidential elections. And that was when we noticed how Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, partisan chat rooms really became weaponized and became an outlet to use for propaganda. Some of the things we want to talk about today are, why is it still occurring after the 2018 midterms? Didn't we do anything about it? Wasn't there an entire set of investigations that were both done within the U.S. and internationally? And shouldn't this all go away by now? A couple of the other questions: why can't Twitter and Facebook stop the disinformation campaigns? They control an enormous mind share for all of us, and they own it. Can't they fix it? We'll look a little bit about how it's being fixed and not fixed. Also, I want to look at this year's and next year's troll farms, what social media crackers are doing, spending their time. What are they spending their time and money on? How are they shaping the virtual world to clients' wishes? And how do we get to where, how did we get to where we are today? It seems like things do not appear to be getting better, no matter how much focus we put on it or cybersecurity. Also, we'll talk a little bit about what's the impact on you. What's the impact on your business and your virtual and real communities? I know many of you are project managers, and as project managers, you start having to look at risk, and this is going to be one of the higher risk areas that you're going to see. And finally, I think the question we need to ask: will trolls make Facebook disappear? And that's a question we should keep asking. Facebook is no longer the spot where you monitor how your kids' soccer teams are doing, and it's no longer the spot where you communicate with those relatives and friends that are far away. It's no longer the app that lets us find out where our friends are and what our friends are doing, and let them all post terrible pictures of themselves, or worse yet, some of us. And it's changed. So the concern we've got is Facebook going to disappear? And we'll talk about that. So if we look at where we are in the area, I know we're going to, one of these days, one of my keystrokes is going to let me change it.
If you click in the center of the slide, sometimes that...
There we go. Finally. Okay. So I think what we want to talk about with the internet troll farms, the update, why do we care as stakeholders? What did we say less than a year ago, back in May of 2018? What did we get right? Did we get anything wrong? And what are we going to do about it now? So we'll talk about those. So when you look at why this is important to you, I think as users, you rely on social media not just to stay connected socially, but also for marketing all your products. Your brand many times relies on positive coverage in social media, and your brand could be anything. It could be your business and your business products. It could be the project you're working on. It could also just be your institution. Many of you are in the private sector. Many of you are in the public sector. So no matter where you are, you still have a brand. Sometimes many of you or many of your colleagues get your news on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, maybe anywhere else on the internet. And that's one of the things that many folks have come to rely upon. That's also what trolls rely upon, to put out just a slightly distorted version of the news, just a way to get people to become more agitated and more vocal on different platforms. As developers, you need to be concerned with protecting your users. And by protecting your users, looking at how do you ensure that the software apps that you're building are secure, that they can't be manipulated by trolls, that you can't get the information out of them. And then what's some of the real tool information that you need as developers? I've seen a number of cases where companies like Microsoft, IBM have put out releases on new products which within milliseconds information's been posted on bulletin boards, on parts of social media, on places like Reddit, where an army of trolls has descended on them and started making comments about how bad the tool is, what the problems are with the tools, that they've tried it and it doesn't work. And actually none of that has ever happened. Many times some of these news releases come out, the software itself is not available, and that's happened with some of the IBM products that they have on machine learning, where they've announced the product itself hasn't been released, but you see comments about how bad the product is and that it ruined the application this one person was working on, and it never happened. So trying to get real tool information, again, you have to make sure that you understand where your sources are. Project managers. Think of all the different project management tools that we have out there, not just a project, Microsoft project or some other project management tool that's building our Gantt charts, but think of how many times you use Messenger. Think of how many times you may use something like Snapchat. You may be using Twitter to communicate back and forth with your team. You may use YouTube to publish a status report on what's going on. We use all those things. And all of our projects, you find out that people are taking information and trolling them. I did a massively online course for the University of California a few years ago on the latest version of the software engineering body of knowledge that the IEEE published. And I found out that I've got a YouTube channel, and on that channel were all of my presentations and lots of videos and everything else. And I found out that within a couple of days of posting it, that I had all of my videos scraped. And although I couldn't find out where they'd been used, they were snagged right off of there, and some very interesting commentary was left behind on YouTube for me. So you really need to look at how you protect your projects, making sure your projects don't get trolled and your stakeholders don't get trolled. One of the things that trolling does, and you can almost equate them, is it's phishing. And they're going to fish for whatever things they can find within your project and where you've published your project. And if any of you are politicians and entertainers, I don't have to talk about that much at all, because they get more than enough mind share on everything that's going on. They seem to be the number one group that gets trolled. A little bit on freelance trolling types. Went through this in May, but just to refresh everybody. You've got the pretty much individual trolls, but also groups of trolls will take on a personality. They'll insult people. They'll continue debate no matter what. They'll never stop. They always make sure they get the last word. Some trolls just look for grammar mistakes and do spell checking, and it's irritating when something like